Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. I hope you're having a fabulous week. I hope your tanks are great, and I hope you are doing great. I am sipping on some Chardonnay. It's my new thing. I went from the deep reds to the soft whites. So let me know what you're sipping on in the comment section. Today is just open chat. A couple of announcements at the top. First of all, the Seahorse and Pipefish event at Macno was fabulous. It was great. Felicia McCauley did a fabulous job running it. I wasn't able to be there, but she was nice enough to take her computer so that I was there virtually. And Holly was there also. So we both got to enjoy it and talk to some of the, Todd Garner was there. Paul was there. There were people from aquariums there. There were new people that were keeping seahorses, and it was a fabulous conversation. I did record it, so hopefully I'll get some of those clips from people who allow it up soon. But if you missed it, you missed out because it was a lot of fun. And the women in reefing, I am so upset. I thought that Paula was going to help me get there virtually, and Joanne actually put a live link in the Women in Reefing group and page. So I will try to post that before we're done because you can go still watch it and see some of the fantastic women that are leading the industry and newcomers and it's everybody who supports women in reefing, guys, gals, any of you. And it was a terrific event. I missed it, which I'm upset about, but we can all go watch it live. So MACNA was a huge success. I'm so bummed out that I didn't get to be there. If you were there, tag me on your pictures because I love seeing what I missed. and it incentivizes, is that a word? Incentivizes me to get myself in gear right now to get ready for next year so I can be there with bells on, right? Besides that, I think that's the other announcement is that I will actually be a guest on Tank Talk with Tyann on the 27th. So as soon as they do a post about it, I will make sure to share that around because I would love for some Seahorse people to be in the audience to help me out if there's a question I can't answer, right? I'm not the absolute expert, and I'm guessing it'll be more newcomer questions because it'll be mainly reef people and clownfish people, but it doesn't matter. A lot of people interested in seahorses. So 27th, go to Tank Talk with Tyann. I'll put a link to the group. And then when the post goes up, just make sure to join me on the 27th. All right. We're going to talk about this in a minute. Oh, probably should have thought to cover my address, right? Anyways, I got a product in. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we do, and I talked about that at MACNA Seahorse and Pipefish event. But before we do, anything new with you guys? Miss Holly, Ray. For those of you on Instagram, sorry, I'm rambling, but on Instagram, you can hear us, but I know it looks funny if you're watching like this story. If you want to see the full video so you can see our lovely faces and see the product when I show it, I might make myself big so you might be able to see it on Instagram. But just to be sure, you can always hop on over to YouTube, search Seahorse Whisperer, and you'll see us. We'll be the first thing you see. But anyways, I have to adjust something. So Holly, Ray, Cheryl, anything new?
Couple things I got from the Seahorse and Pipefish event at Mackinac. Somebody there was talking about that they found that seahorses respond to clicker training like
Yep,
dogs.
that's right. Mm-hmm.
And so I started using it. So I'll let you guys all know if it works on them for a while. What I'm using it for is so that they know when it's mealtime. I'm clicking it every time they get fed so that if somebody's hiding somewhere, and doesn't notice me putting food in or whatever, they can hear the click and say, hey, it's time to eat.
Do you
So,
remember, Holly, the woman that was talking, Cheryl? Just to let you know, it was a woman that works for an aquarium and in the industry. She was
yeah,
very
yeah. I don't
professional.
know who she was. She was with a public aquarium, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I believe,
Yes.
and it was at the very beginning. So, yeah, it actually, we got logged on virtually right at the time she was kind of started speaking. So I didn't hear her really say who she was or anything. I didn't know who she was.
Well, I'll connect with Felicia because I know she talked with each and every person at the event. So I will find out who it was so we can give proper credit. But isn't that interesting to you, Cheryl, that they're using clicker training on seahorses?
Well, since they normally use clicker sounds in their normal communication, it would make sense that a certain frequency used on a regular basis would indicate incoming food. Where one sees it and now makes a click, and everybody else is all going, "Oh yeah, here comes food." But it does make
Mm-hmm.
sense. It would depend on the frequency and the thing to use it on a continuous basis to truly be effective. But yeah,
Right.
it doesn't surprise me at all.
I thought it was really cool. So, Holly, I'm glad you brought it up. What else, Holly?
And I got one guy in the hospital as of today.
Oh no, what
The
happened?
the little male who he was in the hospital about 10 months ago. Yeah,
And
so this morning he was floaty. There was eggs dumped, and I'm like, well, maybe he's got air in his pouch. So I pulled him out and I had a bucket of clean water to do a pouch evacuation. And he was kind of floaty. So I'm like, well, it could be that. It could be IGBD, which they
yep.
get. So I got him upside down in the bucket and tried to do the pouch evacuation. He didn't have air in his pouch; it's his body. So
Oh
I put
no.
I put him in the hospital with the Diamox and antibiotics, and yeah, hopefully he'll get better. That's the best I can do for him.
Yeah. Well, that's a
I saw the
bummer.
picture that you posted, and
Go ahead,
it
Cheryl.
was one of those things where his pouch was a little puffed up, but his pouch, it wasn't pouch emphysema the way he was responding. It was
No,
definitely internal gas bubble.
yeah, yeah,
Which is the hardest thing to treat. So,
Yeah.
Holly, please keep us
yeah.
updated. And my fingers are crossed. Ray, and I'm gonna stop turning my camera off, guys. I keep adjusting something on the settings. But Ray, anything new with you and your seahorse?
Nope. The only time he's moving is if I forget to feed him, and then when I go down to the next feeding, he's sitting waiting at the other end, waiting for me to get the food there. So nothing changed.
Okay, sorry, I'm coming back.
What? Can't hear you.
Sorry, that's nice. I was trying to adjust things, but I'm adjusted. Okay, we're good now. Anyhow, well, at least no change is better than bad change, right?
Yep. But I wish
mean-
he'd move around more. Like he's got no interest in anything now that his mate has passed on.
Actually, I have. Go ahead. Sorry.
Hell, he could live another few years like this. So, like he's only 6 years old. So,
Right.
He's still young.
I mean, as long as he's, he probably misses the company, I'm sure. But until you see some actual symptoms of a problem, I mean, you're taking care of him. It's all you can do.
Yep.
I don't know. I have an issue before I show you guys the thing that was sent to me. In my all-in-one, in the 40-gallon all-in-one, and anybody out there, and Francis actually said, "Thank you, Cheryl, for helping me with my Pomeranian puppy emergency the other day." Francis just has all the pets, apparently, because he's the one with the cool seahorses, and we want to hear how the seahorses are doing, Francis. Anytime you want to jump in the stream, you've got the link. But anyways, thank you, Cheryl, for helping us all. Always, we appreciate you.
Well, his little pup got into some food that it shouldn't have gotten into, and it could have proved lethal. And he was having a devil of a time finding any vet that wasn't in surgery or doing something else, so he had no ability to talk to anybody. And I can understand why he was very, very concerned. The thing is,
Sure.
the pup was looking actually awfully good afterwards, so what it got into was minuscule, fortunately.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, because if he'd gotten more, it would have been lethal. And it just got
Gotcha.
into a wrapper that it shouldn't have gotten into that had a toxin on it that's toxic to dogs.
Well, we're just so lucky to have you to fix all these problems for us. We love you, Cheryl. Okay, so now fix my problem. Here's my problem. In my 40-gallon all-in-one, I'm telling you the whole story just so you guys can help me figure out, and I will go pull it and show you if you want me to. It's not a problem. But in the all-in-one, if you're looking at the back chamber, right, I've got the UV sterilizer. It's opposite what I'm doing. So this is this side, but it shouldn't matter. Anyways, so UV sterilizer, and then the UV sterilizer, and then the skimmer. And then on this side, I've got sock, K1, and then in the middle, I've got the pumps and on the char chamber, which I'm still planning to move up into the tank. But here's my problem. And this is before the char chamber, I started having these problems. For some reason, I don't know if it's because the K1 is like pushing the water over too fast or something. But basically, my problem is in the return chamber, there's two pumps. One of them has worked perfectly forever. The other one, first it started shocking me, so I took it out and I bought a new one. I put the new one in, but before it started shocking me, and to this day, it shoots out air bubbles. And I know Dan said, those aren't the minuscule air bubbles we worry about with pouch emphysema, but I'm just like, frankly, I just don't like it. There's bubbles, being flown into my tank, and I can't figure out why. I bought a brand new pump. It's not clogged. I'm almost thinking, and the other thing I can tell you guys is that when I look from the side down in, I can see the pump and stuff, and you can see the bubbles. I should have taken a video. You can see the bubbles going through the little return hose. So it's something happening. Like, I don't know if it's that the hose has a crack, or what do you guys think? Why would that happen?
It
Cavitation.
sounds like
Go ahead, Cheryl.
it sounds is underneath high flow water, and so it's basically it's cleaning a lot of bubbles from the flow that you've got. That's either that or there's something wrong with the pump and it's somehow sucking in air.
Well, I got a brand new pump, and the old one was doing it. Yeah. And you might be, that's the only thing I can come up with, is because the way my K1 reactor, it's just homemade. And so it kind of often, leans to the side. So it kind of does put the water over the baffle faster. Do you think that's it? But even when I correct
it's
that,
getting air from your K1 reactor somehow?
Could that be it?
Like the air is somehow, bubbles are coming from the K1 reactor and getting sucked into your pump? Are they that close to?
If you guys can
going on in the tank, but the air.
Okay, if you guys can give me 10 seconds, I will.
It.
I'm gonna let Ray give his thoughts, and then Holly just chat about whatever. Let me go take a quick picture if you guys don't care. I'll be fast.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Ray, what was your thoughts?
No, I was just thinking it might be cavitation, but from what you've expounded on further there, I doubt that it is cavitation. So it's got to be something that it's drawing in and breaking up, because to get cavitation, there has to be a restriction on the intake to a certain amount. But cavitation will produce the bubbles, but it's only certain conditions that are going to cause it.
That's exactly what I'm thinking too, Ray. It sounds like she's got flow going in that's forcing air into that chamber, and basically the pump is just picking it up and blowing it out the other.
That's kind of my thoughts on it, because I've never had a pump underwater blow out air unless it was getting air from somewhere. Can they even do that?
Yes, that's what cavitation is. Cavitation is
what causes that, Ray?
If you have a restriction on the intake, then you end up with cavitation, and the whipping around of the impeller will produce bubbles right out of the water and expel it.
Huh. So that just means not enough water is going into the pump then?
Not at that point. That's why you always restrict the output, never the input on a pump.
Ah, good to know. I had never heard that.
Okay, so I heard what you were saying. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I was just going to say, I actually have all valves on air pumps. So when I'm reducing the flow, say I've got little or something, I can turn the flow down, but I don't reduce the extra flow through the pump, because it just dumps part of the water back into the sump where the pump is. And so I've never had that problem.
Okay, well, I'm getting ready to show you guys as soon as this goes through. And of course, it wasn't doing it as bad when I go. You know how it is. You go to the
Yeah.
doctor, and whatever's wrong doesn't happen anymore. But
That's like my overflow box we talked about last week. It fixed itself, and I don't know how. I just count 10 and walk away. I haven't dealt with it since.
Well, the other odd thing is that I've gotten it to stop by adjusting the what's it called? The I can't think of it. The pipe that comes out, the lock line. But so I don't know if it's like something I need to clean that or something, but here's what I was talking about, just so you know what I was talking about. So here we go. Let me see if I can share this really quick. So this, sorry guys.
Robert's here. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Robert. We were just talking about the sorry. I'm trying to do 5 things at once. We were just talking about the Robert King chambers and how that's not the problem I'm experiencing. But here we go. All right. So here is just the one section of the back. Do you see the K1 media reactor? Yes. I know it's not a very good one, but, and then that's the pump that's giving me problems. So I'll just play it. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
No, when I'm, but then the pump, you can sometimes see it, the bubbles in there. It's not happening right now, of course, but it will be. And the pump is new. Okay. See how the K1 reactor kind of goes over the baffle? But then the pump, you can sometimes see it, the bubbles in there. It's not happening right now, of course, but it will be. Okay, hang on. Let me.
From the reactor coming over the wall?
No, but hang on. Oops, I messed up here. I wanted to show you the other one I had. This is the bubbles. See, they're just bullshit bubbles. It makes me so mad. And it just keeps spitting them out. And Dan has told me, that's not going to cause gas bubble or pouch emphysema, but I don't like them. See them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, and I can pull the actual machine to show you guys because I don't know if I'm connecting something not tight enough or I need a new tube. You think it's the K1?
On your K1 media reactor, are your outlets at the top of that container that the K1 is in, or do they release water directly back into the same chamber? In other words,
is the pump separated from the K1? Is that what you're asking?
There's a baffle in between, and in that baffle. But the problem is my K1. All I did was use those suction cups.
It bubbles over out the top, though, right?
Well, what I think the problem is I used the suction cups. I drilled holes in the back of my little 1 liter bottle that the K1's in, and I've got 2 suction cups that don't stick anymore because they're older. They got algae on, whatever. They just don't stick to the back anymore. So the K1 reactor ends up turning on its side, and it leans against the baffle. So then it's creating a higher waterfall over the baffle. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does, but it does.
Well, what I'd suggest is next time you actually have the bubbles coming there, turn the K1 off and see if it stops it.
Right. You know what? I actually tried that and it didn't. So here's my final question. It didn't make any difference, but I don't know if that takes time. I don't know. But the other thing is 2 things. One, I wanted to know from Ray what you meant by water coming in faster than it's going out, because it is an adjustable pump. So maybe I need to adjust it. Maybe it's something about the flow is not doing right. And then number 2 is I really the theory I've had lately is I really think there's like the piece that's in between the top piece that goes into the tank, back into the tank, and the piece that attaches the sump or the pump to the piece in between, which is this plastic tube. I think the plastic tube has gotten old and it's stretched too much and it's letting air in. That's my theory, but I don't know if that's even possible.
Well, to get air in, it has to be in contact with air. And if the tube is all in the water, it's not going to suck any air in.
Okay. Well, that makes
Is the
sense.
Now, if your lock
intake
line
blocked
is,
in any way?
if your
Okay,
lock
hang on,
line
Ray.
is above
Ray.
the water surface, and if there's a fault in the lock line, it may be sucking it in there, just like, okay, I can't get the word out. This cognitive impairment drives me nuts.
I know what you're saying, though.
It's like an injector. An injector, you pass the water through it, and you have a air line that comes on off from the side there, and it sucks the air down in, so you get all the air bubbles coming out.
Okay. Well, question about that real quick, because what you said made sense. But the lock line, when the water comes back into the tank, that piece is above the water line. Now the lock line makes it go down into the water. But my question is, if that was the problem, how are the bubbles happening down in the part that
Where
comes
the
back
pump
up?
is.
Yeah.
That
Before the
doesn't
lock line?
Yes.
Okay, then
That's not
you'd
it.
have
Okay.
there has to be either cavitation happening or there has to be sucking air from somewhere. So it's, it's a question of finding out where.
Wait,
So
wait,
So
wait,
if you have
Ray.
the
that's what
ability
I
to
was
change
saying
the
about
rate
the
of the flow,
cavitation.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait 1 second, because we got to all take turns. Ray first, then Holly, then I'll speak. Go ahead, Ray.
if you have the ability to change the flow, experiment with different flow rates to see if there's a point where it stops it. And just out of curiosity, if it is doing it, try partially restricting the intake that will produce cavitation to see if it makes it worse.
So you mean on the adjustable pump, make the flow less?
Yeah, with the adjustable
Okay.
pump, make the adjustment there to see if it makes a difference in any of the adjustments, like getting one range in the middle or extremes. But also, if you don't find anything that way, use something to partially block the intake off, varying amounts, so you can try and induce cavitation to see if it makes the problem worse. So if the problem does get worse, then it may be cavitating, but then you're going to have to do some troubleshooting to find out why it's cavitating.
All right, Holly, I know you want to input. Give me 1 second to say one thing to Ray, two things to Ray. First of all, I have no idea what cavitating means, but I'll learn it. And bottom line is, these are the cheaper pumps. It's what came with the tank, but they're cheaper pumps that have the. I should just go grab it. Maybe I will if we get talking. But it's a small pump, and the way the adjustable part about it is literally a twist turn on the front of the pump that covers the holes. So it's literally.
Right.
So maybe that's it. My other thought about cavitation, which I'm not even sure what that is yet, but is that I really still am sticking to my theory that it's that tube, because I don't understand why I don't have any trouble on the other side. There's two pumps exactly the same, exactly everything the same, and only one has trouble and it's brand new. It doesn't make sense. So I would say, though, that the piece that I keep talking about, the plastic piece that connects the pump to the return, it does go out of the water before it returns. So maybe there's something going on right there. Is that possible? You know what I mean? Like the air's coming in through there. I don't know.
But what
Holly,
I
what were
had
you
to
gonna
say was based on, because Ray just explained while you were gone what cavitation was. And basically it's from your incoming being restricted on the pump, being less than your outgoing. So what I was going to ask, is there anything restricting the incoming water to the pump? Like, is there something against it blocking the intake or something like that? Is it crowded in there, or?
No, I mean, I'll show you guys again. It's got each pump in, like, the char chambers in with the other pump. So the Robert King chamber is on the side that's working just fine, and there's a baffle in between even the pumps. So again, just so I can show you guys real quick, if I can, and I won't turn my audio on this time. You don't need to hear me, but this is the section. So see that, well, at the beginning, it'll replay. That's the part I think is the problem, the plastic piece connecting it. But you see there's a baffle here and there's a baffle here. So it's in its own baffled area. So it just doesn't, I don't know what else to think or do.
Okay,
I'll play with, go ahead, Cheryl.
your return on that back to the tank, is it putting bubbles into the tank?
Yes. The bubble, that's what I'm saying in the video, is sometimes it wasn't happening because I had turned it off because I was sick of the bubbles. But in that little plastic piece, I can see the bubbles. It's coming from, and the adjustable side is right there. I didn't even think of that. Maybe it's because I've got it up against the wall. Maybe I need to turn the pump. I could do that. But I really think it's got something to do with it. Some problem with the connection. I think it's that plastic piece. I really do. But anyways, go ahead, Cheryl.
The pump, what is the tubing attached to next that goes into the chamber?
Okay, so pump, and then it has the screw thing, and then the plastic piece, and then it comes up into that little black piece, and it goes out into the lock line.
Okay, and at what level is it entering the tank? Is it entering from the bottom or the top, or the charge or the K1 chamber?
What do you mean?
Not
Okay,
the-
so how does the pump work? Is that what you're asking me?
Well,
Where's the water going
where's
into
the
it?
pump? Where's the water from the pump entering the K1 media reactor?
It's not. There is no pump on my K1. I use airline.
So it's totally air.
Well, I think we're getting confused. Or maybe I am. The K1 media reactor right there has no pump. It just has an airline, as you can see right there, that goes down to the bottom and twirls the media. Then it goes from that, the water goes from that chamber into my return chamber, where I have two separate chambers that have a pump here and a pump over here. And there's a baffle in between. The Robert King chamber's on this side, so that's not the problem. But in this chamber, I've got the pump. But what I was saying just a second ago is the water enters and is adjusted on this side that's touching the wall or almost touching the wall. Maybe that's my problem. I don't know. That shouldn't matter. Okay. Well, so anyways.
It's totally sealed. It's supposed to be a totally sealed system from the pump so that nothing should be able to get in there except for what comes through the intake of the pump.
Exactly.
Well, that's why I think it's that plastic piece, because everything's the same on the other side and it works perfect. Like,
but
maybe
if there's no hole in the plastic piece, then it can't take anything in.
Well, Ray, what I was questioning you about earlier is, I don't know if you can tell by the video, it's a crappy video, but that black piece, like, okay, so pump, plastic piece, black piece that goes to the lock line. That black piece is above the water line, way above it.
Yeah, but you're getting air below that. Now, if it was getting in at the black part or the lock line, then you wouldn't see the air between the pump and the black part.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so far my answers are mess with the adjustableness, less and more air going in. Anything else I can try? Because this is really frustrating.
You can also try blocking off at the lock line too, doing a partial blockage there, just a small amount, then a little bit greater amount, just to see if it does make any difference. When you're blocking off the output of that line, if there is any cavitation, it'll balance it out and stop the bubbles from happening. But and if you block the intake of the pump and if the bubbles are due to cavitation, then the cavitation will get worse.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll just do it live next week. No, I'll play with it throughout the week, but maybe I can't take it over there right now, but maybe I can set up next week to be over there and you guys can walk me through it, because it's driving me nuts.
Somebody else is saying they have the same problem with their all-in-one.
It's an all-in-one. I think it's got to do with the same all-in-one. Okay, is that Poor Man's Reef?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said you have two pumps. Are the pumps identical?
Yes. I bought the exact same.
They're in different chambers or in the same chamber?
Different.
They have the same plastic tube coming up to the same black piece and have the same lock line on it?
Yep.
Have you tried interchanging the tubes?
I have not. I could try
that. Have you tried interchanging the black pieces or the lock line?
No, Ray, I'm not that smart. That's why I asked you, so you can tell me to do this stuff and try it. And I will, because that's a good idea. I didn't even think of that. But there's got to be, if I switched them and the same thing was happening, it's got to be something with the K1 because I got an airline in there or something. But I'll play with it either this week or with you guys next week and figure it out. But Poor Man's Reef, total side note, but I told Felicia that you mentioned her. She ran the Seahorse and Pipefish event at MACNA, and she wanted to know who you were because I guess she was talking to you via biota. So she didn't know exactly who you were. So if you want to message me, you don't have to say publicly who you are, but we want to give credit where credit's due. Anyways, and hey, Melinda. Okay, so I'm going to try and play with some things. And let's see, RG Reef said, if the water flows underneath the baffle into the return chamber, put a piece of filter floss there to serve as a bubble trap. It's not underneath, though. It goes over. And I will tell you this, too. I have seen bubbles where it goes over. But it's at the water line that's way above the pump. Would that still make a difference? So in other words, if the airline in the K1 and it leaning is somehow causing the water to flow too fast over the edge of the baffle, and I can see it bubble up and like get almost even foamy sometimes where it's going over the baffle, but the water line above the pump is like, like that. So how is those bubbles getting to the pump?
Because of your airline in the container.
I know, but I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I'm going to try all the things you guys suggested. Poor Man's Reef said he just quit caring and because you have to replace the tubing elbow. Why do you have to? I haven't replaced it. Maybe that's my problem. I didn't know I was supposed to replace it. Are you supposed to replace it? Shit. Because I keep thinking it's that damn tubing or the elbow. So let me know, Poor Man's Reef, how often I'm supposed to be replacing it because I haven't.
Shouldn't have
And
to.
What size
I
airline?
don't think you should have to either. And Poor Man's Reef, last question for you. Where do you get them? Because I'm always afraid if I go try to buy the plastic piece, obviously I could take it with me, but I'm always afraid I'm going to get the wrong size because, they get stretched out when they're connected to stuff. So let me know. Maybe you'll fix it all for me just by replacement.
Well, so you're not actually running any water through the K1. You're just running an airline.
Okay, so my K1 reactor is a 1 liter bottle. It's the end of the bottle is open. There's nothing underneath it, just a little plastic piece to make sure the K1 doesn't escape. So the water's coming in literally through the bottom hole of the 1 liter bottle. I have an airline right above the entrance that twirls it. So yes, it's got water in it for sure, but it was too tall for the tank. So what Dan had me do is drill holes in the sides instead of the top so that it does still spin. There's water in it, everything. The K1's perfect. The K1's not, never been a problem. It's that for some reason, recently the pump started pushing bubbles through. I think it's got to do with the pump. And anyways.
You're saying that sometimes you see with the overflow on the divider.
Yes.
That's coming into where the pump is.
Right.
Okay. And is it producing the overflow? Is it producing bubbles in the water as it goes in?
I have noticed it doing that once in a while because when the K1 tips over, it's like pressing against the baffle and it's pushing the water over faster. And I do see bubbles where that happens.
Well, if you've
not
got
all the
bubbles
time.
Anywhere in the water there and the
That's what
pump
it is.
takes it up, it's going to micronize the bubbles and blow them out again.
Yeah. But my only question, and this is getting a little sciencey for me, but the reason I thought of that too, but the reason it didn't make sense to me is because the pump is this far under the water line and the bubbles are way up here. They're not bubbles like going down. It's just like foamy bubbles.
When you have water going over a divider, the water will go down. The water doesn't just stay at the top. There's flow that goes right to the bottom. Okay. And it can carry the bubbles down there. And some of the bubbles can go with the flow through the tank. And they're larger bubbles that you see that way if it's going over that divider and you happen to see bubbles there, those bubbles are likely a lot larger than what you're seeing in this tube after the
that
pump.
Makes sense. And they're shooting down. I'm just not seeing it.
Bubble in, it'll micronize it and blow out a lot of little bubbles.
All right. So for next week, for the update, Poor Man's Reef and I are going to figure this out. I'm going to try all the ideas I've heard today, which are turn off the K1 for a minute and see if that stops the bubbling. Um, uh, switch the sides of pumps, see if that stops it. I'm going to try everything we talked about here, and then if that doesn't work, I'm going to replace it. the parts like Poor Man's Reef did.
Your return out of the K1, is it from the top, the sides, or how's the water coming out?
It comes out
of
the sides of the top water line.
At the top? Do you have anything down lower in the sides?
Right.
Because
no, that's what I just said.
My K1 media reactors actually have small holes drilled 50% of the way down, and I don't get any bubble problems. But anything that any bubbles by the time they get to the top of the K1 media reactor are minuscule.
Well, I would say no, that makes sense, Cheryl. Thank you. Because I would say when I made the K1 reactor, I followed a video and it did have the holes at the top. So there are holes at the top, but they aren't used because the 1 liter bottle wouldn't go under the water line.
Right.
So what explained and had me do is put holes along the side, but I don't have them 50% of the way down. So that'll be something else I'll try. I'll try one thing at a time until I figure it out. And Poor Man's Roof said, I imagine it's the tubing pulling air at the connection to the elbow. You can try a zip tie, and I've done that as well. You know, I actually have that for another tank. What's that tape? You know what I'm talking about? The sealing tape that you put along the threaded
plumber's tape?
I think that's it. Yeah. But I'm going to try that.
Mylar?
What, Ray?
The Mylar tape?
That might be it. I'm not going to know. But Robert also said cavitation is more like a whirlpool created by the pump, either running too strong or too close to the surface.
I disagree.
And this isn't all.
Cavitation basically is because of a problem within the pump itself not getting something, and has nothing to do on the outside of it. It's a restriction, something that's keeping the water from coming up, so that your pump impeller whipping around there will actually create the bubbles in there. It's hard for me to explain it with my limitations, but that link that I gave you, the last one that I put on that private chat, though, it goes into a lot of the proper terminology for you and explanations for it.
Well, thank you. And I think you're kind of both right. I mean, maybe you're both, whatever. My point is that I understand what you're saying, Ray, is that it's more about the water coming in, going out, and whether it's at the right speed, the tank for the flow. I get what you're saying, but I know that whether it has to do with cavitation or not, because I have to learn the word, but what Robert's saying is true too. I do know in other tanks I've had that problem, because trying to keep the water level in the sump matters so much with the pump, because if the water level goes too low, you're going to have major problems. But I never let that happen.
But it's not called cavitation then. That's the only difference.
Okay.
Like the conditions he's talking about can still cause the bubbles and not have the problem, but it's in proper terminology, it's not cavitation.
Well, listen, I'm not even going to go into proper terminology because I, again, don't know what the word means. I'm going to go learn it, but go ahead, Cheryl.
Drill some holes down lower on the sides.
K1, okay.
And basically the way mine are set up, the air line is at the bottom, and it blows bubbles up through it. But I have the actual water flow into the system comes from the top. So it's continually pushing things down a little bit. But what happens is as the air comes up, it releases. But if they're down low enough, it's releasing the air or the air bubbles into the sump itself. So I don't have any problems with it getting into the tank or anywhere else.
I'm raising my hand like a kid. How do you have the water flow coming in from the top?
Well, these are old Coral Life Super Skimmers.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You got the cool. I forgot. Right.
And so those are set up to have the water flowing in from the top, and they have a valve on them at the top, so you can adjust the actual water volume in the container. They actually work. They're much better K1 media reactors than they were skimmers.
Say, I have an old one. Maybe I need to just pitch my 1 liter and do. But see, my problem with that is it wouldn't fit in the back of the all-in-one. That's why I had to go with the 1 liter.
The thing is, what
but
you
tried
got to
all these
do,
ideas.
yeah, you have to go in and you have to get the innards out because they get in the way. But you can use the external stuff. The pump is hooked in from the top. I use the drain off valve, what used to be the old drain off valve, and I just let it, if it starts getting run into the tank. And then my airline is down at the bottom. It's a rigid airline tube that sits on the bottom, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Well, again, and if you guys want to see Cheryl's media reactors, she actually goes into it in our video. I posted the link a week ago, but I'll post it again when we're done because she described it in detail as we show pictures in another video. And Melinda said what I was talking about earlier was Teflon tape. So what I'm going to do, the one thing we always say is don't change too much at once. So like what I'm going to do is when we get done here tonight, I'm going to try one of the ideas. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. I'll try to video, whether it doesn't, and I'll do each idea a day. I probably have 7 ideas, so I'll have by next week an idea for you guys. I won't be able to replace this stuff until I try all the ideas, but we'll see if any of the ideas work because it's probably something stupid I'm doing on my side, my end. Like not replacing stuff or not having the flow right or the K1 coming over or not having the right holes in the K1. But I will be the first to admit when I'm wrong and show you guys it for sure.
All right, I've from the other one first.
Switch. You want me to switch the tube?
Do the switching of the tubes first.
Okay.
If you still got it, then you know it's something happening at the pump.
And then next, I'll switch the elbows because, like poor man,
well, the elbows
said,
after that.
He thinks it's
if you've got air bubbles in the tube is before the elbow, right?
True. Yep, you're right.
Yep.
All right, that's what I'm gonna do. Sounds good. All right, what else before I show you guys this thing and we talk about that?
I gotta go feed the seahorse.
All right, go feed. It's so say seahorse because
Just remember.
And hey, wait, real quick. Any questions you guys have? This is open chat. I'm going to show you the product I got, and I talk about the Robert King Chamber, and I talk about my problems. But this is open chat, so if you have questions, we're here to answer your questions too. Or if you want to share, we'd love to have you share. Go ahead, Holly.
I have
Holly go first.
I have a question on behalf of somebody else that asked me that couldn't join us tonight.
We didn't do it. It was not our fault.
So she's having a problem with let's see, diatoms. She says, how do I get rid of diatoms that cover my sand bed? I clean up after feeding each time. I probably take a gallon of water out from the bottom and then put a fresh gallon back in. I use RODI water. I do a water change once a week. When I vacuum the sand, the diatoms appear to go away, but they come right back after a few hours. I notice it when the light is on. And then she says the guy at the fish store told her to turn off the lights and cover the tank for 3 days. Does that sound like anyone would survive?
That's common old school advice. First
for reefs, right?
Yeah, and it's for a reef. The other thing, diatoms are one of those things. When you set up a tank, it's kind of like green hair algae. It's a nuisance problem, and typically, as the tank matures, it takes care of it. I don't sweat unless it's something like bubble algae or bryopsis or something like that. I don't even sweat it when I get different types of, whether it be diatoms or green hair algae or some of the other.
My first question, though, Holly, to her would be, or him, how old is the tank?
Exactly.
Because I actually have an article website that talks about the fact that there's a nitrogen cycle and then there's an algae cycle in every tank. I know Ray will argue and say he's never seen algae in his tank because they're extremely scarce tanks. In a normal reef type setting, or even with sand and rock and such, I've never had a tank that didn't go through an algae cycle that went through the brown, the green, the red, period. I've never had it happen.
Laura, so I think looking back, because we've talked about some other things, Yoshi's asked about some other stuff, and I think her tank's been going Not quite a year, maybe.
Okay, if it's then it should have been past the brown stage. And Poor Man's Reef said, speaking, diatoms only present themselves in an unstable biome. I'm curious if it's actually something else. Do you have any pictures, Holly? Or can we just
No.
maybe ask her for some and we can look at it next week? Or she could come if she wanted.
Yeah. I think she has.
Ray,
It's a bad time for her to come. So I see her here sometimes, but very rarely.
well, we can
Ask her.
still answer them and she can, do it later. But if she could send some pictures better to, diagnose the algae and the problem. But Ray, why do you think it's overcome with diatoms?
Well, if you're talking into the reef situation,
Well, no, it's seahorses, right, Holly?
Yeah, but she does have other stuff. She has rock and stuff in her tank.
but I've seen. Well, it's a long time now, but like back in the 90s, it was quite common for diatoms to be around, but until the tank really matured. But the problem was some of the people were saying, well, when you get by X number of months, the tank should be mature now. In my experience, tank maturation varied depending on what you had in it, the husbandry, there's so many variables. And I saw many tanks of my friends that still were not matured after a year.
Okay.
So
No, that's a good point.
were quite probable in those tanks until they had matured. As far as the green algae goes, that's a different matter. Green hair algae to me is something not being properly maintained.
Diatom's not green hair algae, though.
No, but I thought somebody mentioned green hair algae too.
Yeah.
I
No,
did.
you're right. You're not wrong. I was just saying for her.
Yeah, from my perspective, they're nuisance algae in a tank, in a basically a relatively newly established tank. And I don't sweat them, but then I'm also anymore at the point that I strictly bare bottom, and I've changed a lot of things that I used to do. And I used to see green hair algae. I used to see diatoms, a lot of different
Have you
things.
guys heard and do you agree with the theory that more cleaning feeds the nuisance algae? Did that make sense? Like if you do more water changes back in fierceness, it's because they're gaining nutrients. Or is that completely false because it's organics? Like I guess my real question is, would large water changes help?
Yeah, but usually it's a case of learning what you're putting in the tank and finding how much you actually need so that you're not putting in as much as what you've been putting in. Putting in too much and then not having the system to remove the excess, then you're going to feed the green hair algae.
Yeah. It's
Well,
going to feed on the excess phosphates that are coming through as the tank is cycling.
and I would say too that worst. I mean, they're gonna be there. It's hard to ever, truly is what I'm saying. If you watch this later, I'm with you. And diatoms, it seems to me like that's what I see grow on the seahorses because it's brown. I know diatoms are like instead of a plant, right? They're like an organism, aren't they? So
I don't.
confused. I'm so
I'm
sorry.
trying to look them up because I'm not. I'm not really sure. I don't know that I've ever had them, so I don't really know what they are. Yeah.
It's more
Okay,
like
here we go.
a brown powder.
Yeah, it is. But I thought, and I could be wrong,
It
guys. I'm
says
not.
the definition is it is an algae. It's a microalgae,
I know it's an algae, but
but I'm not seeing pictures of what it look. I'm seeing pictures of what it looks like in a microscope, not what it looks like in a tank. Oh, here
here
we
you go.
go.
So this is what I think of diatoms. This right here. Oh no, it's going to take me to the site. We don't want to go to the site. X that out. Sorry.
Well, there
But
you go.
yeah,
It
like
says
this.
how to get rid of diatoms for good.
Yeah, if you have
I
diatoms,
mean,
you're normally going to find it first on sand, then on
yes,
the glass.
there's a good. That's what I think of as diatoms,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
the brown yuck in the sand. But then when you see the seahorses grow themselves, it's usually brown, gross in my experience. That you want, kind of fuzzy.
Mhm.
Ugh. It's better than dinos, though. You better pray. You better be so thankful. In fact, that's why we need to see pictures, because if your
Yeah.
tank's a year old, it might be dinoflagellates and diatoms, which is a whole different thing. And I can help you. I had dinoflagellates. Terrible thing to deal with. Peroxide helps. I can walk you through it for sure. But anybody else in the comment section, a thought? Because I don't usually trust these articles, but that's definitely what it looks like. Those are
And yeah, she
diatoms. I
says
know
it
the pain.
covers her sand bed.
Yeah. And
As
one of
long
the
as it's
things,
not capturing bubbles in it, then it's not going to be dinos.
well, true, but yes. So let us know if there's bubbles in that, and it grows. Well, just send us pictures is what we need. And I would say too that one of the things I think I'm trying to remember, I will get my notes from my reef tank, and I will talk about this next week if you guys remind me. But I think I do remember with diatoms, not dinos. One of the things I did was scoop with a cup the upper layer of the sand and literally take it out. So I'm gonna have to look back at my notes, but question, and we'll talk about it again next week because I don't have any permanent answers. But Holly, was
Yeah.
there anything else to add on that?
It also gets
No.
on rock. It's not just limited to sand. So
Mhm.
once it
Sure.
takes over, you've got a nasty looking mess.
And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to do diatoms. I was trying to do a search real quick because the question that Spuck Jr. asked is ChemiClean safe for seahorses? And I actually did a video on that. I just put it in the description. And so, yes, ChemiClean is absolutely safe for seahorses. I used it to treat cyanide, not diatoms. So, again, like I've done all this stuff, you guys, but I have to go reference my notes because I don't want to say the wrong thing and tell you, oh, this would work if that's not what I actually did because I've done so many things. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's why
I had a cousin
with the
that swore up and down for cyano. He treated it with the
ChemiClean.
the light
Oh, the
Oh,
UV.
UV?
UV.
UV
Yeah,
light.
Yeah.
that's what he used, the UV to get rid of that.
And I think she does have
Well,
UV. I remember her saying something about that.
I don't think UV will work on diatoms though.
No.
Ah,
I don't either. I don't either. And I would say, I'll have to look. ChemiClean is absolutely safe with seahorses. Watch the video. But I'd have to look and see if that was for dinos. I don't think it was. I think it was for cyano.
Yeah,
But I'm going to get you an answer. I'm going to talk to everybody I can and get you a correct answer by next week because I know it's a pain in the butt. But don't freak yourself out. Every tank goes through it. Pros that say they have tanks that never go through it because it's a different kind of tank. Okay. And I've been through it multiple times. So we'll get some good answers for you. This says check nutrient levels.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. If you have, but like Ray said, a tank sometimes doesn't mature until after a year old. So she might still be going, maybe she did such a good job in keeping the tank clean that the algae cycle took longer because she kept it so clean. You know what I mean? So the organics didn't build up. She didn't go through the algae cycle. That's possible too. Definitely check phosphate, check nitrates, and get back to us with some pictures so we can really diagnose and help fight it. That's all I
One
got.
of the things I find too with people that have in trouble with different kinds of unwanted flora and fauna in their tanks, and I'm the first one to step up and say I've been guilty of this when I first started, is I would
Yep.
start throwing things at the tank. And this didn't work in a few
Yep.
days, so then I threw something else, and then this didn't work. And by the time I finally got the mess cleared up, I'd thrown so many things at the tank, I had no idea what worked. I mean,
Yes. Thank you, Cheryl. I'll say too that with the Chemi Clean video, I think I say it, I don't, please hear me now. It's a Band-Aid. Chemi actually fixing your problem. You can blast the tank, make it pretty. You don't fix whatever was causing the problem, it's going to come back, right? So unless you want to do that repeatedly, you got to, as Ray always says, find the underlying problem, which is usually
exactly.
nutrient export is bottom
I mean,
line.
I,
You're
I
gonna
more than once threw a bunch of stuff at a tank over a several week period. And finally, it was looking really good. And then I was sitting there scratching my head, going, you really blew it because now you have no idea what worked. And that's exactly what I told
well,
myself.
and that's why I like to go check my, because when I treated my reef tank with Cruz Arias's, I literally had a schedule that I followed daily. I was using peroxide, other products. I was doing major water changes. I changed up some of the stuff, like running an airline for my skimmer out of the house because my feet. So there was all these steps. It's not, oh yeah, use this and you're going to be good.
Yeah.
It's on your tank size, age. It depends on what's in it. It depends. So we're not trying to avoid giving you an answer, but give us some pictures. We'll come back with better answers that will actually help you.
There's so many variables. And I know people sometimes get frustrated with us when we start asking a bunch of questions, but we're not asking questions to be rude. We're asking
Right.
questions to better assist somebody to get a situation under control.
Last
And
little
that's
story. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl.
no, that's I'm fine.
I was just going to say last little story, not even a story, but when Cruz did help me with my reef, I could show you before and after pictures. It went from something out of a freaking Amazon crazy mucky grossness to this gorgeous mixed reef because of all his help. But he wouldn't even like give me instruction. He would make time him, show him the tank, show him the problem, talk about every piece of equipment, and literally go through what really was going on because yeah, no one size fits all here. And Spuck Jr. said everything's scientific, just change one thing and observe. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Holly, did it? We've been cutting you off the whole time. Was there any
No,
other thoughts about that or comments? Okay,
no,
well now
no.
we have.
Like I said, I don't know anything about it really, so I just said I'd ask for her because
Thank
I
you.
don't think I've had those.
Okay, well, ask her for some pictures and tell her we will take this seriously, research it. I'll go look up my notes. We'll take some thought on it this week and we'll talk about it again next week.
Yeah.
And
One
with the
other quick
pictures,
side
we can
note.
make sure they're diatoms. Go ahead, Holly,
Yeah.
or Cheryl.
One other quick side note. When somebody has a problem with a tank or fish and I ask for pictures, I'm not trying to be rude or anything else. I see things in pictures because of the years I've put in that
Sure.
you may not even realize are there. And that's one of the big reasons pictures really do help. And it's not to be rude. It's to be able to better assist someone that has a problem.
Well, and I will say one more thing on that note is that I remember when I was brand new to Seahorse, I was embarrassed as heck. If my Seahorse was bloated and floating and wasn't swimming anymore and had got emphysema, I was so embarrassed to post those pictures. Now I'm like, no, we need to post them because there's so many other people having these problems that just don't, that are embarrassed, that don't show the pictures. So no question is stupid. We've all been through these tough things. So the pros may be longer than, maybe we have these problems more recently than they did, and they might have the answers, but they had to work through all these questions and figure it out for themselves too, and with each other, you know what I mean, on seahorse.org. So don't ever be afraid to ask a question or post a picture, because if anybody with you or makes fun of you for something you've done wrong,
they're
I'll come get them. YouTube's going to block my video. I'm opening a box, YouTube. All right.
Yeah.
Go
No, the thing is,
don't get her mad at it right now.
I can look at a seahorse, and you might say, Seahorse isn't eating, and I don't know. And I'll suddenly see the potential discoloration, tiny spot that it tells me the seahorse is showing a vibrio lesion. And somebody that's brand new is never going to go to a bacterial infection or even something food. And these are why we ask for pictures and things like that. It's not to make anybody feel bad. We can give you much better advice if we can actually visualize what's going on in the tank.
Absolutely.
Is that a card of
Okay.
instructions?
Yep, I'm looking it up. I wanted to make sure I was ready
Oh, no.
here.
My God, Kelly's reading instructions. Everybody run.
I know, right? Exactly. I agree. Okay, so this is the product that I'm opening. The card that I got has actual QR code. Am I showing it right? I can't see. I started to show.
Down a little.
Okay, so it has a QR
Perfect.
code. It's from
Smart.
Smarter, and all the instructions. That's pretty smart. Instead of having a bulky brochure to put it online. So here's me, and I'm going to tell you what this is in just a moment, but let's look at the company because we appreciate any company that supports the channel. And self-cleaning protein skimmer. Ooh, I'm interested in that. Self-cleaning protein skimmer. I need to message them back with one of those. Reef-sickle feeding system. So the reef-sickle feeding system is what they sent me. So I'm going to show it to you in a moment, and we'll learn more about it, and we'll press learn more in a minute. They also have a bunch of new products you can go check out, and self-cleaning intro video. Look at that. It's one of those rollers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's watch it real quick.
Those I would like. I guess.
Hi, I'm James with Smarter Reefs, and I'm happy to introduce to you our patent-pending self-cleaning protein skimmer.
Oh, shit.
Are you dreaming of getting rid of your skimmer cup? Exactly that. We did a complete redesign of the traditional protein skimmer and arrived at a novel, space-saving, rectangular design.
Okay, I'm not going to play the whole video.
Changes to the
You got to go to the site if you want to learn more about it. But it looks interesting. And all I would say is they need to hire me to do their videos because he's too monotone. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. And now I can't go back. So let me try again here. Let me share again. Because I messed up here. Gotta go back.
I hate it when they send out those cards and they have QR codes on them. They assume
Why?
everybody's got a smartphone, and I don't have a smartphone.
He doesn't have a smartphone.
Well, that's true.
I'll be
True
damned if
story.
I
I guess that's
that
true.
kind of money, especially for the rates we pay here in Canada.
Hey, I threatened my smart TV because it wasn't so smart because it turned itself off in the middle of me watching a show. And I told it was going to be replaced if it did it again, and it hasn't shut itself off since.
Guys, look.
Yeah.
See, I didn't pay enough attention. No, it's ice trays.
Yeah.
Thawing chairs. So you might be able to do exactly what Ray was talking about. Like keeping some cold. Oh, now I'm really interested.
Have you got a URL that I can plug in for this?
Yes, sir. In the comments and in the chat. Comments. And well, I'm giving you just the you have to go to the reef-sickle. But that's what we want to learn about because we want to find out if this is an excellent thing for because it might be. We were ahead of time, you guys, about the fact that to any kind of frozen feeding system, like for vacations and such, is that we absolutely recommend rinsing your and not letting it sit in the tank or for more than like 10 hours tops. So that was my big concern. When I told them that, they said, let us send it to you anyways. So now we're going to test it out. And yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I didn't know there was an ice tray. So I haven't done any testing. I wanted to show you guys as I opened it. So let me stop sharing. And we'll on the instructions in a minute up how to put this together. But we have, let me make myself big real quick. I hate making myself big, but I'm going to. All right. So the little screws, We have the tray, all wrapped in plastic. Very nice. I can tell there's a insert right hole in the middle. I know I'm not doing a great job here, but and then wrapped in bubble wrap, which is great. This is very interesting. Oh look, wow. It's like oh my
Looks like
gosh.
my keeper.
And now I get it because oops. But does this move? I wonder. No, it went up and down. But so it sits in here in the compartment, and it has an up and down. I don't know much about this yet, you guys. I literally just got it and I opened it with you guys. So I don't know yet, but I'm gonna check it out. And this is high quality. Like it's not the flimsy flams. This is thick. It's thick. So and it's
It's
got
a
compartments.
silicone tray.
Yeah, but it's got like I wonder if that's the days or something. What the little chambers are. And then we have see guys, I should have probably opened it before I went live and figured it out.
A sea
Parts
urchin
in
hair.
there and that. And this is patent pending too, so just like the Robert King char chamber. Whoops, sorry. Don't do product interviews first. So I'm gonna put it together and figure it out. And then there's a lid. So that's what we have. We also have a beautiful sticker. And I'm going to put this together and figure out how it works. But let's talk about, Ray, what I should be looking for, because I know you've made these kind of things before. Let me make myself smaller. You've made these kind of things before. What needs to happen for a feeder, frozen feeder, to be effective in a seahorse tank?
Well, basically, it's got to allow you to first of all thaw it and rinse it, refreeze it right away, and then to be effective, it has to be able to be regulated for how long it'll take before it thaws.
Okay, so first you said you as a person who rinse your food and then refreeze it with our.
Yeah.
Okay, and then go ahead. Sorry.
Well, basically that's it. When I saw the cone shape that you showed there, it just reminded me of the one that I rigged up just out of stuff I had around here. I used styrofoam to make a cone, except mine is actually the reverse. Mine, the cone part is the inside of it. Whereas on the one that you showed there, the cone is showing the slope on the outside.
So I can hold it up again. I was just going through. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing that because I don't want to give it away. You guys got to go to the site. But you talking about the cone, meaning
on that one
this thing?
On that link that I showed there, there's a picture. The first picture shows a 4-inch diameter cylinder, and it shows layers of styrofoam. Well, each of those layers of styrofoam, they're rings that I've inserted in there, and each one has a smaller hole, progressively smaller, so it's cone shaped inside.
Hang on, I'm about to share your page. 1 second. I'm trying to get there. All right, so this is Ray's page. Put the links, but what are you saying now? Oh, it does look kind of similar. What is this, Ray?
Well, the one you showed there, it like it was layers that were progressively smaller, but it was smaller on the outside. With mine, it's progressively smaller on the inside.
Okay.
And then the tube goes down in the center of mine, and the food. I freeze the food, and it's sitting in the length of the tube there, and at the bottom.
You want me to move?
Bottom will thaw out first and allow food to go drop down and out and into the water column. But then with more ice further up, with the larger diameter of ice around the, how do I say that, around the center tube, it takes a hell of a lot longer for it to thaw. So it just progressively does it in layers. It'll start thawing from the bottom upwards. And so properly
So wait,
done.
so wait, so wait. So you throw the frozen food in frozen after you've rinsed it yourself and refrozen it. You
Yeah,
throw it in there.
I refuse it in those, see, on mine there, if you look the long tube,
Yes.
okay, and there's an airline tube sticking out.
Okay. Wait. So the food goes in here and the ice goes around it.
Yeah, you freeze all the ice in this container here, and it has that center stack there. But then uh, I I freeze the food in a long tubular fashion, and then sit it down in that tube there. It's frozen on that rigid airline tube, and I use it's rudimentary, but I use that clothespin clip to regulate how far down I want it to sit in order to regulate how soon it's going to start thawing. So it's
Gotcha.
very crude, but it was just done with an overnight thing, trying to come up with something for this person that was wanting to go away.
Well, it looks like they've come up with something very similar that may work. I was gonna try. I'm not prepared, guys. I was gonna try to find
Well, from what
the
from what
email,
you've
but
got there, what they sent you, it's a lot more. There's been a lot more thought put into it, and of course, it's not made out of scrap stuff that's lying around. It's made original equipment type of thing.
exactly. And what do you think, Ray? That let me stop sharing. What do you think this piece is? I mean, I'm going to read the instructions and put it together. I'm just opening it now, but what is this for?
Well, I'd have to look at the whole thing all together to just try and figure it out, I guess.
Well, I
When
was
you feel cognitive impairment, it takes a while to get things figured out.
Sure.
Hell, I can't even get the words out that I want to get out most of the time.
Well, especially with 3 women, we won't even let you talk when you want to, when you're able. but no, there's all these little pieces. And so, obviously, guys, I'm not prepared to show you what put together, and I'm not going to try to put it together on live because that won't work. But I mean, there's even this is interesting. This is really interesting because it has the ounce. I don't know if you can see that. It has you probably can't see it, but it has the ounces. It has, 1 cup, 1 ounce. And I'm going to put this together. When I first talked to these people, I was like, well, we can't really do frozen feeders because we like to rinse the food, and that's important. And we don't leave the food in the tank. But if there's a way to keep it to where it unfreezes over days, that could seriously work. Cheryl, what are your thoughts? Oh, I asked Cheryl when she was taking
I'd have to get a hold of it, but I'd have to play with one before I can really give an opinion on it. My biggest concern would be that the food would thaw out too fast. And if that is the case, you're looking at a serious potential for problems with the tank. The other thing is, if it thaws, depending on can you control the thaw rate? I guess is what I'm asking with it. And
the amount that's released, not just the thaw rate, but the amount that's released, because we don't want any food being stuck in the tank.
Putting out with each bean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
I'd have to get one and play with it first.
Look, you guys, every time somebody sends me something, they ended up sending it to Cheryl because Cheryl, maybe I'll test it out and then send it to Cheryl. But
mine worked over almost 3
Cheryl's
days.
great at it.
Yeah, I have no problem testing stuff out.
Wait. I know, Cheryl. I always hang on, Cheryl. I always tell people, I'd be happy to test it, but if you want a pro experience, Cheryl's the one. But Ring, it worked. How long yours did?
Mine would start. I could set it up so that the first thaw would start a matter of hours after putting in the tank, and then it would release through the rest of that day, the next day, and about half or a little over half of the third day.
Yep.
I got into some experimenting. I could narrow that down. I could fabricate it to be more precise, but this was something done in a quick fashion just to figure out for this other person how they could get by over the long weekend.
Well, it's really cool though that they've taken, basically people were trying to do when you did it successfully and advancing upon it, because I didn't realize how exciting this product was going to be. Now I'm actually excited to try it. I mean, this could really help solve problems for vacations if it works. So testing it out, and I'll show you guys next week when it's all put together before I try to use it. And yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, with me, going on vacation is a cavitation.
That's funny.
Those
I
little
like it.
sticks and the blue containers and the little sticks, they're basically what you're going to pour food into, and it'll freeze onto that little stick, and then I believe you'll release it from the blue mold and put it into the unit.
Okay, so you're saying this will hold the food.
Yeah.
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 You're going to put the food in there, but you showed some little tiny white sticks. They fit into there.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of, there's so many one sticks. There's so many.
The little white things will go in. The little white things will go in that blue mold.
Oh, I see. I see now.
And so that when you pour the food in, it'll all freeze around there, and then you pull it out, and that little white thing will, except it'll be lying down.
Oh, it'll be, like this. Listen, y'all, I'm new to this stuff. Like that.
You can drop it into the center part and hang the food there and let it thaw out.
Okay, but again, the question, and I'll play with this for sure, and I hope it is. I know this would be perfect for a reef tank, but for seahorses, we got to really investigate here. My only thing is housing. Like, I know you explained it, but it still just worries me. Like Cheryl said, the rate of defrosting, and I still don't understand. So you put the food in here, you freeze it, and then these go in there, and then what? Like, who changes them out? Or they're against
I think
each other.
it rotates or something. I think it's gonna go through, and
I don't know.
like
I can't see them. Show me the main thing again. The first thing you showed with the white inside. No, it was a cylinder. Yeah. Okay, that's going to be the thing that controls how fast the thing is going to thaw.
So these go in here? I'm sorry, I'm so stupid.
Well, there's probably a standpipe or something that's going to suspend it.
Well, yeah, it comes up from it.
Okay, and the food will go in that tube there.
Mm-hmm.
And the white, that cylinder there, that'll be filled with something, water, and then frozen. And so it'll control how fast.
Because this will defrost first, then it'll defrost. It'll keep defrosting at the rate.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right. But what I guess, well, and I'll put it together and I'll research. I literally just opened it, you guys. But I just am curious about, like, if you only put one in.
Well, I think this one may not be designed to last for long. It's a frozen
they said it was.
So maybe it's for a day's feeding at a time. I don't know.
Maybe. I'll research, but I'm much more impressed than I thought I would be. So Smarter Reefs, you guys, and I will put this together and, Robert King Chamber video out, but I'll try to get a video out on it. I do tape record all this stuff. It's just editing, getting the video actual to you guys in production. But I do have these things taped, so I will share them, and we'll see. We'll see. It looks like it might be a winner. And thank you to Smarter Reefs for sending it for me to play with it. And if I can't, it's Cheryl, and she'll make it work. But
if I can make it work, I'll turn it into something else that works.
But I think the reason they send these products to people like us is because they want the feedback. They could
Yeah.
make a change.
Yeah.
This is patent pending, so nobody be it, please. But yeah, looks
Well,
like,
it's
I
like
mean,
my
that
charge.
would
further,
be a game changer.
Yeah, my charge chamber. I was skeptical at first, and then I got one, and I'm like, oh, this really does work. And so it's one of those
Yep.
things. There's new advances coming along all the time, but this hobby is expensive enough. You can't buy everything that shows up on
Sure.
out there that you'd like to have. But by the same token, you can sit there and get really curious and scratch your head and say, "I want to try one of these."
Yeah.
And this
And
rose
the
may just help. We at this point we don't know. I suspect it works.
so I will put it together. I'm sorry, I didn't
if you
mean to
click
cut you off,
further
Cheryl.
in the links on that page for that item, you'll get into a better description of how it's working, and you get better pictures of it. And it says for throughout the day.
Okay, so it's a day-long
It's
thing.
not sufficient. It's not sufficient. Somebody's going to have to put it in each day rather than,
Well,
and that's better than, if you have somebody that has to come over and feed them, if they come over once a day, that's better than having to come over 2 or 3 times a day.
Exactly.
and it could resolve the problem of people who want to feed so much a day, via 4 times, but they work. That might be another solution. If it does
Yeah.
work accurately with the frozen, only frosting at a certain, limit, that might be exactly what you for people, Ray, is that, they could feed more often throughout the day. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll
You
see.
see, when I was working full time, I was working 10.5 hour days and raising seahorses. And you should have
Yeah.
seen me go blasting home, cutting every short corner I could to get home to be able to feed him, and then feed him again before I had to go to bed to get up at 5:30 the next morning. And I
Right.
mean, it was crazy. And something like this would really help out to get an extra feeding or two midday, so you wouldn't have to be so panicked to get home to feed everybody.
And Ray just gave me another great link that will help me when I go to put this
That's,
together. And
that's showing you what they put on their site.
absolutely, and I will absolutely research a little bit more myself and get this put together, because we appreciate anyone who sends products that might be helpful to seahorse keepers. And so I will update you guys next week. I know for a fact I'll have the Robert King Chamber video done this week, because again, guys, I have to have it done before I go on Tank Talk with Tyann. Beat me up. I'm just kidding. I will be on Tank Talk with Tyann on the 27th. So be there for sure. If you need instructions, I'll put them in the description. But okay, guys. Well, thank you to Smarter Reefs again for this product, and we'll test it out, and we'll come back with some feedback and let everybody know how it works. Anything else we have to discuss tonight, you guys? It's hitting that 10 o'clock hour. Ray stays with us every week. I love you, Ray. You're so devoted.
What was that?
I said I appreciate you for staying every week. You used to log off after like an hour. Now you stay all night.
That
We
depends.
appreciate
But
you.
that just depends on physically the pain level that I'm at. So, like, there's no
No, I
point
know.
in my logging off if I don't have the pain level that gets to. But
Well,
when you're
cheers to
living
you
in
not
pain,
having. Sorry.
when you live with pain and then it gets severe, you can only take it for so long, and then you got to go lie down to get the levels of the pain down.
Listen, I have to every day go. I have a special bed, hit buttons to where my legs are above my heart so that my swelling of my legs goes down. I'm old. So I understand. And cheers to you. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge. And Cheryl, coming and sharing your knowledge when you could be doing something else, or, God forbid. So we just appreciate you. That's all I was saying. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Well, I'm here as long as you can put up with my problems with the cognitive impairment.
Shit, Ray, you remember things better than I do, and you bring the good knowledge. We always want you here. And I will get with Dan, by the way, speaking of which, and find out when we're doing Ask Seahorse Source Part
Yeah.
4. Cheryl asks me every When is it going to happen?
Well, I
And I'm like,
messaged him. Yeah, I messaged him and he messaged me back. I'm really, really busy right now. And there were a few things I wanted to say, but I really didn't want to put them in print.
no, no, no.
Dan and I used to work as paramedics, so we have a perverse sense of humor.
Of course.
And when he said that, I was cracking up.
I just want to also mention earlier you were talking about the fact that we have to ask questions. Now, the problem that I run into anymore is that there are questions that I want to ask when somebody is asking me for help on something.
Right.
But unfortunately, I don't always remember to ask all the questions that I should be asking.
Sure.
And I think that can happen with anybody because I believe it happened before I run into my cognitive impairment problem.
Yes.
Oh, no, you're right.
So sometimes you don't get the right answers because you don't ask the right question of the person that has the problem. But you try to ask as many questions as you can, and it doesn't hurt to even ask some questions that maybe don't pertain to what you think it might be, but it might just stimulate. If you keep asking questions long enough, then your mind will trigger, oh, I didn't ask this one. That's a crucial one.
Yep. Yep. Believe me, when I was getting help with my reef tank with Cruz, I was on the call with him constantly. And when I got help with Seahorses with all these guys constantly, there's never a dumb question. And Ray's right. One question leads to another, and it becomes a relationship. Like, I love people. I love Seahorse people, but I love the people that have helped me and that I've helped. And it's just a community. It really is. You get to care and their Seahorses.
Well, the thing with asking is you can say, okay, let me ask you a few questions and give me a little more information. So better assist you get pictures and other information. Then you can get into more and more questions. How long have you had it? Where did it come from? Et cetera, et cetera. And it's one of those things where, I mean, if I ask every question that I want answered when somebody has a sick seahorse, they'd probably be writing for the next 2 weeks.
Right.
But that's not really darn good. But it helps me, particularly pictures and information. Like, is this wild caught or was this captive bred? Because right there, that can be a red flag.
Sure.
We still see a lot of problems with wild caughts, for obvious reasons. And so it's a matter of I said, like, the seahorse is missing all of its dorsal fin.
Right.
That one threw me for a loop. I've
Sure.
always seen, and that seahorse actually got bitten by something much larger than it, because it was not only missing part of the dorsal fin, but the top portion on his back was gone. And a friend of mine in France, Patrick, actually saved the seahorse's life and managed to get him back to the point and kept him going. But he was so discouraged. I mean, this went on for months, and I kept every time you get discouraged, I say, "Send me a picture," and pictures about where the tissue is healing. You can see how it's improving. And all of a sudden, one day, he messages him back, "He really is healing."
Yep.
And
See,
he
and it's not always. It's not always an easy process. It's not always overnight.
No, but it's one of those things where I'm not here to judge people. I'm not here to tell you you're stupid or anything else. I'm here to help you. And that's my sole goal, is to be able to help get through some of this stuff, whether it be illness, tanks, mates, or anything else.
And I have good news, you guys. I completely forgot. I should have said this at the beginning. I will next week. But I met a macro god. I shouldn't say god. A man who does macros like you wouldn't believe, better than I ever did. His tanks are amazing. I'm not going to tell you his name till next week, but I met him at the Seahorse and Pipefish event at MACNA, and I'm very hard to get him to come and visit us for a special guest interview. So we might have all your macro answers soon.
That would be fun. What is toxic that they can't get to?
What, Cheryl?
What is toxic that seahorses shouldn't hitch to? I'm
Yeah,
kidding with
right.
you.
All sorts of questions. I know. I miss my macros, so I'm like buddying up to him. So talk about him more next week. But I am gonna have to call it for tonight. But anything else we can cover next week? Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Cheryl, Ray, and Holly for coming and talking with me every week. Thank you to everybody in the community who comes, and we are going to see you next week. All right? Everybody say
Right.
cheers.
Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Holly's not here to cheers. Oh, well.